Again, welcome to Good Decisions, our monthly AI governance webinar. This month, we are thrilled to have two esteemed guests, senior directors from the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, also known as FINRA. I'm just going to go to the next slide here for our agenda. FINRA is at the forefront of model operations. They're bringing together cross-functional teams to innovate and address organizational level goals. So in this webinar, it's going to be a little different than some of our past ones. We're going to do a fireside chat, and our two guests are going to share their insights and experience getting started with and implementing and scaling model governance, managing change, and addressing both the business and technical challenges that come with all of that. So we're extremely lucky to have two senior directors today, as I said. One is from the technical side, and the other is from the business side, so we can get both perspectives on model operations. So please welcome Sumalatha Bachu and Dr. Harvey Westbrook. Sumalatha is the Senior Director of Technology. She's been at FINRA for about 20 years, over 20 years, where she specializes in big data operations, data analytics, and model operations. She oversees data processing at a truly massive scale and leads multidisciplinary teams that manage market regulation data operations. And then Dr. Harvey Westbrook is the Senior Director, this is a big title, Senior Director, Assistant Chief Economist, Regulatory Economics and Market Analysis. And he's been with FINRA for over the past 3 years, where he's bringing deep experience from both the public and the private sectors, including leading analytics projects and initiatives at every life cycle stage to improve business decision-making. So welcome to both of you. Thank you for joining us. And so let's jump right in because there's a lot to talk about. And I want to start with Harvey. And a lot of folks on the call, you're probably already familiar with FINRA, but just to make sure we're all on the same page, Harvey, what is FINRA and what do you guys do?
Thanks, Jay. So FINRA is a self-regulatory organization authorized by Congress to protect America's investors by making sure the broker-dealer industry operates fairly and honestly. FINRA works under the supervision of the Securities and Exchange Commission, and among other things, we write and enforce rules governing ethical activities of all registered broker-dealer firms and registered brokers in the U.S. We examine member firms for compliance with those rules. We foster market transparency, and we educate and protect investors. And to enable these regulatory responsibilities, FINRA's data resources are very large and can be extremely complex. We have to manage these complexities in service of our regulatory mission to safeguard the investing public against fraud and bad practices. And that's FINRA. My organization within FINRA is the Office of Regulatory Economics and Market Analysis, REMA, and we're led by FINRA's Chief Economist, Jonathan Sakobin. And REMA's project areas include writing economic impact assessments of FINRA rulemakings, both prospective and retrospective ones. We conduct data analytics across FINRA's portfolio, and we do regulatory operations work in support of member supervision and enforcement. We also have teams of folks that monitor and study emerging trends in the financial sector, and we have a blockchain lab that supports initiatives in crypto and fintech areas across FINRA's portfolio.
Yeah, it's a very comprehensive set of responsibilities. So that's on the business side, obviously. And then Sumalatha, can you go into where you fit into the organization and what your role is within FINRA?
Definitely. Thank you, Jay. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. I'm super excited to share my experiences along with Harvey on this topic of model operations, which leads into model governance and analytics. As Harvey mentioned, we regulate and monitor the brokerage industry and the stock markets in the US. And our mission is to protect investors by making sure markets operate fairly and honestly with no market manipulation occurring. And we collect massive amounts of data. When I say massive, it's really massive. And I'm going to go through some of the statistics in a bit from various exchanges and financial services firms who do security trading. We then surveil those market events to detect any bad acting by disciplining those who break the rules. And just for some of the interesting statistics, we process and analyze about 620,000 brokers. We regulate 3,300 security firms. We ingest on any given day 600 billion big data transactions. We work with 24 different stock market exchanges in the US. We manage about 500 petabytes of data storage. I know it's a lot of numbers. So at FINRA, it's not only big data processing, but it's extreme big data processing. So that's about FINRA. And then what do I do? I manage the big data processing ecosystem with respect to the data ingestion, data extraction, transformation, processing, data quality, and so forth issues that come with more data, more challenges, as we all know. And it's actually very important to have good data. So this, again, a nice segue into our topic of making good decisions. Good data leads into the models to consume that data. So we have efficient governance around it.
Awesome. So again, a fairly or extremely large set of responsibilities. So kind of diving into the model operations and governance part of that, Dr. Westbrook, can you, or Harvey, I know you like to be called Harvey.
Yes.
Why are artificial intelligence, machine learning, and decision-making models important to FINRA? Let's talk about the why.
So as Sumalatha pointed out, our data resources here are very broad, they're huge, and they're extremely rich. And let me talk a little bit about the broad regulatory mission that FINRA pursues. And we can really think of it in 5 ways. We deter misconduct and enforce rules. We detect and prevent wrongdoing in U.S. markets. We discipline those that break the rules. We educate and inform investors. And we resolve securities disputes. And given that we have access to such large quantities of regulatory data from a variety of sources, these data are often large and complex and inform our regulatory mission, which is also very wide ranging. And we utilize many different analytical techniques, models, data sources, and approaches to inform our regulatory work. And these could range from detecting and preventing wrongdoing in the U.S. markets. It might be informing analysis to understand compliance challenges in member firms. And it might be thinking about how changes in the rulemaking impact policy and where those impacts are going to fall in terms of the market participants going forward. So we really have to use analytics and use analytics in thoughtful ways in order to really utilize this data to inform our regulatory mission.
Got it. And I guess so. Sumalatha, with that as context, how does FINRA use models, and in particularly, machine learning models, to feed into those decisions that Harvey's talking about?
Yeah, definitely. So it's very important to note that, right, decisions are made by people, but people are informed with the output of the ML model predictions. And that presents insights into users so they can make data-driven decisions, which all leads into the operational efficiencies. So at FINRA, we use these ML models to inform decisions by integrating these models into various business processes. It starts from data collection, data preparation, model development, model integration, inception, testing, deployment, monitoring, you name it, and so forth. And it's just not done at one step, but it's like an iterative process for continuous improvements. So we embedded these ML models into our decision-making process so we can have enhanced efficiency, accuracy, and also responsiveness to meet the customer needs. As we went over FINRA, we have all the regulatory actions that we need to perform.
Got it. And within there, it seems like, there's a lot happening. And so with, a lot of variables and different priorities, there's a lot of challenges that I assume come with it. both on the technical side and the business side when bringing models to market and just putting them into production. Yeah, Sumalatha, back to you. Like, what are those biggest technical challenges that you face?
Yeah, difficult question. So the challenges are, I would say, threefold: people, process, and tooling. Harvey is going to cover some of the people process, but my opinion, the complexities with ML modeling algorithms being secure, and complexities with data, volume, and even technologies. But one of the biggest challenge for us is to have that common language of risk management framework between business and technology, and then making sure that training happened between all the teams, between business and technology. Having that common language and understanding is one of the challenge. And from the technology standpoint, biggest challenge is with the tooling. So we have a lot of disparate business units and pretty diverse portfolio at FINRA, but we want to provide governance at one location. From model development perspective, like the best of breeds, we have multiple solutions. We take like a BizTech approach. We support business data scientists and technology data scientists. But to have one central location to view that governance view is what one of the biggest challenge, in which we have model ops come into the picture for us right now.
Got it. So the tooling, and I know Harvey, you're going to talk about some of the, I guess, like the processes and some of the other things. Can you relate that to the key business challenges that you're facing on a day-to-day basis?
Absolutely. I think, just stepping back for a second, building useful analytics really requires staff from across the organization to work in ways that are new. And analytical projects require teams with very different and deep expertise to come together and contribute at different stages of the project, and to understand how their contribution impacts the paths of the project and potential trade-offs in other parts. So really, the way I think about it is there are three broad categories of expertise that teams have to bring to bear: the business expertise, the analytical expertise, and the technological expertise. And all of these are required for most modern analytical projects. And staff in these areas don't often have deep overlaps in their respective areas of expertise. And so this makes execution of these types of projects and planning difficult, because teams don't require deep experience from their partners who may not understand the trade-offs that others on the team have to make in order to implement the project, right? Oftentimes it's not reasonable to have a policymaker who also has graduate training in analytics or math or statistics, and also is a modern developer and familiar with the technological tools along the way. And so teams have to learn to come together and bridge those differences in their area of expertise, and understand how that their trade-offs that need to be put in place as they execute on the project impact others going through. And this really requires extensive communication across the team. Just as a quick example, a business may know their requirements if it's a change in policy and have a sense of the empirical question that raises, but you're going to need someone who's familiar with, for example, statistics or modeling, to take that business question, identify how it translates into an empirical approach or model or hypothesis, and then they're going to need to know enough about the technological and the tooling down the way, so that they can communicate that effectively to the technology team that ultimately needs to take that business requirements, implement the analytical approach, and do that in a way that's supportable in the tooling that they have access to. And the other part of this is technology is evolving extremely quickly and may have critical impacts throughout analytical projects. And it can be very, very difficult for folks on the business side to really understand how those implications, let's say an open source function changes some of the calculations inherent to it, How do I identify and understand the trade-offs and that uncertainty throughout the entire team? And so what we've done at FINRA is really focused on building analytical workflows that are framing the trade-offs associated with different stages of projects. We're defining the roles and responsibilities that are clear and consistent for project teams across areas of expertise. And that's one where we're working to expand the scope and scale of our analytical projects across the organization.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on a lot of and key points that resonate, outside of the financial services industry too. Just as technology is moving faster, and you have different teams who are maybe specialists. Even me in marketing, right? You specialize in marketing, and the technology is moving so fast. Like, what can you do with it? What questions can you answer? And starting with that use case, that business case of, I need to solve this challenge. I want to be able to do this, and then bringing cross-functional teams together is really, really important, and definitely a big challenge. And so I think on probably a big question on everybody's mind is, how do you actually get started, bringing the teams together, getting started with the first steps of model operations in this analytical process. So Sumalatha, can you share a little more about your journey on how you jump-started model operations and governance at FINRA?
Yeah, definitely. As you said, it's a journey and didn't happen overnight. So, establishing the process, identifying the tools, and understanding the culture shift that needs to happen is the first trigger for us to get started, jump started with model operations. Then, next, having strategy and planning to define the objectives, then identifying the infrastructure and tooling for analytics platforms, then identifying what automation needs to be put in place for all the stages of the model lifecycle. Once those are all identified and planned out and documented, then we did the R&D effort, then we did a POC, proof of concept, and then we did the pilot evaluation. Always starting small is the key, and then we know one size does not fit all. So really jump starting, and then iterating to scale up is what really helped us. And then we came up with the risk-based model lifecycle process. With our journey, we aim to manage and govern these ML models to deliver real business values, and maintaining their models being ethical, transparent, compliant, and at the same time being secure.
And I imagine you weren't doing that kind of in just a technical silo. You were working with Harvey's team. And so I kind of see this natural, like, there's this sort of chicken and egg problem of, how do you bring the technical and business teams together? Where did you start with the policy and the process and kind of the managing change? So Harvey, how did you work to bring these cross-functional teams together to solve these challenges?
So organizationally, this has been a priority for us, and the key thing here is culture matters, and as part of that, building out a culture that understands and starts embracing a common analytical language. FINRA has partnered with Georgetown to provide staff with analytical training, and the program is open to staff across the organization and provides an opportunity for folks with different areas of expertise, different perspectives to gather, learn a common language, understand some of the trade-offs associated with utilizing analytics, and to discuss their challenges that they're facing across the organization. Culturally, that makes a big difference for us.
Got it.
Going forward.
Got it. So a couple things. I see some questions in the Bob. I'm going to save those towards the end. So just hang on, folks in the audience, as we keep kind of going through the chat here. But we'll get to some of those. Okay. So on that topic, Harvey, is there one thing that you wish, I guess, everyone here on the call knew about model operations and governance? Is it that cultural piece? Is it the skill set piece? What is it?
So it starts small. It's all those things, and that's part of the challenge of really executing successfully here. Start small, learn from that experience, and provide staff with the opportunity to adjust and improve over time. Like analytical work is iterative. You learn things about the questions you need to ask, what's available in the data at every stage of a project. And teams need to feel safe enough to be innovate throughout that process while they're held accountable for delivery. And oftentimes, leaders have to create an environment that enables projects to evolve iteratively and sets expectations so that, again, folks with different areas of expertise can learn as they go and learn to build the trust and then scale from there as an organization, take the lessons and the successes and build upon those going forward. I think that's really important. And organizations going down these journeys just have to be thoughtful about that. It is a journey.
Yeah. And I know like sometimes journeys can feel, daunting at the beginning. So I want to ask you this, what are the repercussions of not going on the journey or not doing model governance?
So again, models have uncertainty. And the thing that's behind the scenes of much of what I'm saying is you really want to be able to, as an organization, understand the types of uncertainty that are in the information that you're deriving from those data. And it's noisy, and no one area of expertise is going to understand all these components. So you really have to have that shared responsibility, shared governance, organizational trust, so that both folks working on teams understand how their trade-offs impact their other teammates on their potential projects. But you also, as an organization, have to think across projects for the risks and the uncertainties that are inherent to the information that you're deriving along the way. It takes a lot of time and often a lot more effort than most organizations realize. However, um, you know, there is information to be gained from the data that one extracts, and the technology in the world are evolving very quickly, and there are competitive reasons why we all have to go down these paths as well. I think the big thing though that I would tee up is just reiterating that other point, that leadership really has to build in an understanding that these projects are going to iterate and you're going to learn from that, and to incent staff to be comfortable with that.
Yeah. And Sumalatha, what about on the technical side? What's the most important lesson to share with your peers and colleagues?
Yeah, I definitely agree with Harvey on what he said, and I do have 2 pointers to add. One of them, what we learned is governance does not start at the end, right? Because it starts from the beginning of the model inception experimentation and goes into all the way that it's being deployed and monitored and retraining. So governance has to be put in place at each stage of the model development life cycle. That's one aspect. And the second one is, Harvey touched upon this earlier about change. Everything is constantly changing with the technology around us. So it's like, I always think like, and my manager says that it's like building an airplane while it's flying. So where we continuously operating and ongoing development must occur like simultaneously, and at the same time we have to maintain the stability and performance while it's being changing, right? And what we learned is adapting to that speed of that is really a challenge. And typical software installations is like 3 years, 5 years. Whereas with the models, based on the risk, it's like 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. We need to deploy and retrain them. Otherwise, they'll quickly become stale and degraded performance, right? So, and we also constantly need to work to minimizing number of handoffs, number of manual interventions, and so forth. So to me, that's quite like one of the biggest lessons learned, that we think that able to meet that speed and keeping innovation in mind and for continuous improvements is one of the lessons learned.
So you've given us kind of a good description of the journey too, but can you give us, what is that first step you took? I mean, we talked about jump starting in the journey, but what is the first step you really need to take to move forward with governance?
Yeah, definitely. So there's some things that we did first, but then there are many that follows, right? So the first step is we reviewed the best practices laid down from the Department of Treasury OCC SR 11.7 guidelines. I'm sure people who are in the governance industry know that guideline. So we reviewed that, and then we worked on identifying the baseline for defining model life cycle, and then identifying the automation that we need to put in place for that, defining the document, documenting the policy, and then making sure all key stakeholders are communicated and aligned with the policy and the standards, and then releasing in pilot phase, then refining for full rollout of the policy. And during this whole policy rollout and the process of building it, our goal, key principle at FINRA is like how lean we could go, how adaptable we can be, and then how complete with respect to the governance checkpoints. And also, we have to be risk based. So we had to work through these key principles across the business units and then rolled it out. And then we are doing the gap analysis to reiterate and then bring it back and then put it into practice.
So you talked a lot about iterating and moving quickly to scale. What are your, I guess, priorities for the next year related to model operations?
Yeah, so I would say a couple of things. One is scaling, sustaining, and figuring out what the operating procedures, both for traditional models and for Gen AI, right? Meaning, like, what is the operating procedures look like to detect data skews, drifts, and sustaining in way a lot more. Actually, maintaining that post production is difficult than what we think, and how quickly we can take a course correction of a performance issue of a model, and how do we handle that. And other thing is about Gen AI, right? Everybody's talking about Gen AI now, and everybody believes Gen AI provides all the transformational opportunities for business, but it comes with risks. So we pretty much want to have an effective governance across the board, keeping and balancing innovation with safety and also ethical considerations in mind, both for traditional models and Gen AI applications as well. And we're working through, we are actually putting a lot of the pieces in place now, but that's some of the high level initiatives that we are looking for next upcoming months and next year.
Got it. And there's one question from the audience here on how do you actually select the use cases to pursue? I think kind of what you're talking about ties interestingly into that. But for Harvey or Sumalatha, how do you guys actually assess those use cases to prioritize them?
So I can. There's strategic considerations that any organization has to bring to bear in terms of where they want to start, right? What's most valuable? Again, these projects have risk. So what is the organization's risk appetite, and what do you need to learn organizationally early on? These are some of the inputs that go into deciding where you want to put your resources and where you want to start. Right.
That's great. And I know we're just on the half hour, so we're gonna wrap up. Couple big key takeaways that you guys shared throughout the conversation. One, the big thing I took away is don't wait. You need to start now. If you haven't, you're behind, and don't wait to start and make it perfect. Iterate. And I think a key to that is working together with your stakeholders to get alignment on your business, analytical, and technical priorities and goals. So it's really about that cross-functional alignment. And then lastly, governance doesn't start, at the end when you're validating the model or putting it in production. It starts when you're defining that use case and prioritizing it, and it has to go all the way through the life cycle. Is there anything you guys would add as kind of a final thought here?
The last thing I would tee up is think about how organizations want to challenge and effectively challenge their models going forward. How do you maintain that quality? What are your standards around that?
Yeah, one thing I would add is making sure all the key stakeholders are aligned on the policy that is being defined. That will take a long way. So that's really important, and then move forward accordingly.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you guys both. We really appreciate you being here today. The insights are invaluable, and so thank you both for your time and your expertise. Going on to kind of the last item here. We've been doing this webinar series monthly, and we're excited to announce that we're going to be doing the 2024 AI Governance Leadership Summit on September 25th. Model Op hosted the Leadership Summit last year. It was a great success. A lot of community members from AI, from innovation teams, from technical teams, security teams coming together to share insights, exchange ideas. There's going to be a keynote. There'll be another fireside chat, panel of experts. We'll be announcing the speakers and a formal agenda in the coming days and weeks. But registration is now open. So if you want to stay up to date on the kind of the news coming out of it, what the speakers are going to be, what the agenda is going to be, register today at this link. Again, I'll send out this deck and recording after we close out the webinar here. But we'd love to see you there in September. It's going to be another great event. And with that, that concludes our webinar. Thank you guys so much. And if you have any questions or want to reach out about model governance and learn about some of the topics that were discussed here today, you can reach out to Model Op anytime. We'd love to discuss AI governance with you. Thank you all. Have a great rest of the week. Goodbye.
Thank you for having us, Jay.
Thank you.
Hey, guys.